Unit 5, Fast Food in the U.S. Part 2, Listen Now. Text 1. Are we ready? Let's start. Today's topic is fast food. For many people in other countries, fast food equals American food. All Germans eat sausages, all Chinese eat rice, and all Americans eat hamburgers, right? Well, actually, we do eat a lot of hamburgers. In fact, the average American eats 3 hamburgers a week, along with 4 orders of French fries. I'll tell you, my son is not average because he'd eat 3 hamburgers a day if I'd let him. And I think he eats 4 orders of French fries by Wednesday. But even though we still eat hamburgers, did you know that we eat less now than we used to when I was your age? In 1976, we ate 94 pounds of beef per person each year. These days, we eat 68 pounds per person. From 94 to 68, that's quite a reduction. But just because we eat fewer hamburgers does not mean we eat less fast food. As a matter of fact, we eat more fast food than ever. Here is some food for thought. In 1970, Americans spent $6 billion a year on fast food. By 2001, that number had increased to 110 billion. 6 billion to 110 billion in 30 years. Man, if my stocks had done that well, I wouldn't be standing here teaching. I'd be in my private Learjet on my way to Hawaii. An easier way to imagine this might be that Americans spend more money annually on fast food than they do on university fees, personal computers, and new cars. We shell out more money for hamburgers, pizza, chicken, and French fries than we do for movies, books, magazines, newspapers, DVDs, and CDs combined. How many of you have bought a car? Oh, lots of you, I see. I bet you thought that was a big-ticket item. Now, how many of you often order pizza delivery or eat fast food on the weekends? Most of you. That doesn't seem so expensive, does it? But if you're average, over the course of a year, you'll spend more money on the food than you paid for that car, especially if you bought a used one. 3. Listen and choose the best answer to each question you hear. 1. How many hamburgers and French fries does the average American eat per week? 2. What is the main ingredient of a hamburger? 3. What does the speaker imply? 4. Which of the following is true? Text 2. In one sense, it's not surprising that we spend more on food than entertainment. After all, we have to eat. But Americans spend more money not just on food, but on fast food. Is this healthy? Probably not. Maybe you've noticed that Americans are getting fatter. And I don't mean just a little plump. We're getting obese. America has the largest percentage of obese people among all developed nations. Did you know that more than half of all U.S. adults weigh too much? So do about 25% of our children. The U.S. Surgeon General calls this a crisis. A crisis. Think of it like a river. It keeps raining, and the river keeps rising. At first, no one is very worried, but the water keeps rising and rising. Then, it overflows its banks and floods the city. Suddenly, we have a crisis. Why is being obese a crisis? Well, for one thing, it's killing us. Obesity, being too fat, increases the stress on our bodies. Our hearts and other organs have to work harder, and they break down sooner. Obesity is the number 2 cause of death in America today, right behind smoking. We all know how bad smoking is. Being too fat is the second biggest killer. Of course, there are other factors to consider. Simply eating fast food by itself does not make you obese. On the other hand, it doesn't help your health either. A few years ago, a man decided to eat at McDonald's every day for a month. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Before he began doing this, he was in almost perfect health. 30 days, and about 40 pounds later, he had heart problems and trouble breathing. His liver and kidneys were weak. His doctor said his liver was similar to an alcoholic's. Okay, I know this case was excessive, but what was scary was that while doing this, he found that about 20% of McDonald's customers really do eat there virtually every day. Part 4. Here's more. Passage 1. Consumers may be influenced to buy an item not only by its price and quality, but also by the image it projects. And the image may be just that, only an image. For instance, consider the cases of Häagen-Dazs ice cream and its competitor Frusen Glacé. Both are rich, so-called gourmet ice cream, and both cost considerably more than most other supermarket brands. Both appeal to the consumer through their Scandinavian-sounding names, which imply that they are imported and thus superior or special in some way. The Häagen-Dazs package even shows a map of Norway and Denmark, further suggesting a Scandinavian connection. But that special imported quality is wholly in the mind of the consumer. Häagen-Dazs is manufactured in New Jersey, and Frusen Glacé in Philadelphia. Passage 2. Our world is paying a stiff price for chronic air pollution. If dramatic changes are not made, pollutants will continue to rob us of money and health. They damage buildings and automobiles. Crops, livestock, roads, and metals are all hurt by air pollution. We must pay millions to clean everything from soot-blackened buildings to curtains dirtied with pollutants. If nothing else can persuade us to cut down on air pollution, perhaps the threats to our health will. Our bodies are paying the highest price of all for living in a polluted land. Breathing the air in New York City is equivalent to smoking several packs of cigarettes a day. The poisons in the air accumulate in our bodies, leading to bronchitis, emphysema, and lung cancer. Passage 3. Many adult Americans, particularly males, do not have especially close friends. This is unfortunate for a number of reasons. The lack of close friends places an unrealistic burden on a person's spouse. He or she is expected to provide all the other's emotional needs. In addition, without close friends, adults become emotionally limited. They lose the ability to express themselves freely to other people. The Bangwa tribe of Western Africa, by contrast, values friendship so highly that parents assign each of their children a best friend in infancy. Friends spend a great deal of time together throughout their lives. The worst part of being old, complained one elderly Bangwa man, was that he had no best friend left to gossip with. Passage 4. You may think that buttons near the lower edge of jacket sleeves are just there for looks. That may be so today, but buttons on sleeves originally had a more practical purpose. During the frigid winter of 1882, Napoleon and his troops invaded Russia. As might be expected, many of his soldiers had runny noses from colds and flus, and, to put it delicately, they didn't have the neatest habits for dealing with this problem. This disturbed Napoleon, who was known to hate sloppiness and poor manners. So he instructed the military tailors to add buttons to the sleeves of his soldiers' jackets. Have you ever tried to wipe your nose on ice-cold buttons?